Hi, I'm finally sharing how I found my tumor, my ovarian cancer tumor that was attached to my left ovary, apparently, and I didn't have any pain on the left side. So, how this started was I had a pap smear in December for my annual, and I actually had to fight for that because they say, oh, you had a good pap smear and you don't need another one for 5 years. But I said, I still have my cervix because I had a partial hysterectomy 10 years ago and I want that checked. And my doctor tried to check it and it hurt so bad. I've never had that kind of pain before. And then she said she couldn't find my cervix. She's like, I don't think you have it anymore. I'm like, I have my cervix. I know what was left. And so I let that go. I was suffering from some depression from COVID and being on unemployment, looking for a job. I wasn't taking care of myself with eating well. I had left a job in the hospitality industry that feeds you like when you're hungry. And I was at home trying to figure out 50 meals a day. And so I was in this funk. And by March and April, I found a job in April and I started working at a winery where I had to lift cases. And prior to that, I had something going on, around preparation H was my best friend. Let's just say that, but the prescription kind. And I went to the doctor to check that out because if you have that going on for more than a week, go to your doctor and get that checked out. So I did. And she said, okay, let's do your colonoscopy. You just turned 50. And I did. And before my colonoscopy was to happen, I asked them if they did a x-ray or a scan behind, or not behind, but of the intestine on the exterior side in your abdomen. And they said, no, they only do the inside. And I had been feeling some pressure behind my colon and intestines, whatever. And I thought, okay, this is weird. And then I had my colonoscopy and it was fine. But after like a day or two after, I felt some pressure on my right side and up by my stomach. And I thought, okay, maybe these things moved around because they blow air in you and they shift. I don't know. Your abdomen, the intestines float around after that. I don't know. But it settled down. And then I started filling up eating meals. Like I started getting all of those symptoms, right? I needed to eat, but I wasn't doing like a lot of meals a day to keep that going on. And so I'd eat all at once and I was so full, like right away. And then I'd go to work and I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And in the meantime, I'm feeling pressure on my right side and I'm starting to have to go pee like all the time, which is not normal. And that's another symptom. So I went and got a urine test and there was nothing, just like a bit of blood in my urine. And I was told, well, that's normal. It wasn't enough to be concerned, which it wasn't. I mean, in the end, it was okay. And I didn't have an infection. So I guess if anyone gets that result, there's something else going on and it's probably in your body pressing down on your bladder. And this happens. A lot of women get turned away from ovarian cancer screening because the doctors just think it's their bladder. So, and then I kept having that pressure, constipation. Well, I've had constipation before and I was sick of hearing, drink more fluids, eat more fiber, blah, blah, blah. And I had called like the doctor on the phone, now that they do that. And that's the response I got. Drink more fluids, eat more fiber, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is not what's going on. I've been through that before. And then I called my doctor and she did an exam and I had pressure on the left side because I had that pap smear before when it hurt. And so she did an exam and she pressed on the left side to see where it was hurting. And I told her, don't go any further because that was so painful. But she pressed on something and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the same pain, but it wasn't shooting up because she wasn't pushing very hard. And she said, okay, we need to get you scheduled with a gynecologist. I got that appointment the next week. And my new gynecologist is amazing. She basically saved me by being such a great doctor. She did an exam. She did another pap smear just to make sure we have baseline for everything. And she was so good about that because I told her it was so painful the last time. And she did a wonderful job. We felt the pressure on my right side, same thing. And the left side wasn't as bad as the right side. And I had been laying down, I don't know, one evening, and this is where that in tune with your body thing comes up. And I had that conversation about constipation, and I could feel my bowel movement. It's very bizarre. Like I was pressing down on my abdomen because it hurt, and I could feel like my bowel movement going through and down. It wasn't moving, but I felt it there. And I thought, I have never felt anything stuck in my intestine or whatever before. I'm like, this is not good. And so anyway, I go to the OBGYN and she schedules a ultrasound, get that back the next day, and then I do a blood test. There's a CA, I forget the number, for the ovarian cancer. And she gets the results of the ultrasound right away. And she says, you have a tumor of some sort, a tumor that's 16 centimeters, and it's coming from the left side, not the right side like we thought. And I was like, that is so weird. And she agreed. So she referred me. I got the blood work the next day, and it was 95. And you're supposed to be 48 and under you don't have cancer. It's not a fail-safe blood test, but it's one that's used. So you can't just do a blood test and think you have ovarian cancer or not. You have to go through this whole process. It would be nice, but you can't do that. And so it was obviously cancer. Didn't know if it was malignant or benign. And I just worked my tail off on that day, Wednesday, to push referrals through from my OBGYN. They were great. Had to go to my PCM, had to go to a surgeon up at another hospital. And the PCM did the referral, but it didn't have the urgency code on it. So I talked to the surgeon's assistant, and she called them to get it coded right so I could get the appointment that was available the next day, Thursday at 8 in the morning. Because I thought, I want this thing gone. I'm pushing to get this out of me. And I met with the surgeon, awesome surgeon. And I said to him, I want everything out. Like, I don't care. I'm not having kids. Obviously, I don't have a uterus. So let's just clean it out. And he fixed his schedule and got me in Tuesday. Literally, I had met him Thursday and he got me in on Tuesday. I'm so fortunate because people have to wait so long. And I had surgery on Tuesday. He was able to get the tumor out that, it was like a watermelon or something. And he got it out in one piece, which I'm incredibly grateful because if anything ruptures, the fluids start moving around in your abdomen. And it wasn't attached into anything where he had to cut it out. Again, very fortunate, especially for the amount of time I had been going through this stuff with my body. And the pressure was coming from the tumor pushing my right ovary into other parts of the right side of my body. Well, the right ovary didn't have any sign of cancer. So when it was pushing everything else, those things didn't have cancer either. So I'm incredibly grateful. This occurred from endometriosis. So I had some scar tissue and he couldn't get to the lymph nodes, which really freaked me out because I could have these little things in my lymph nodes. But at the end of the day, the pathologist said I was stage 1. But because of those little floaty things that could potentially be floating around, I'm doing full chemo. I start tomorrow. As some of you have seen my videos, I'm embracing it. I'll share more of those as I go through this. But I just think the takeaway is research your doctors, your primary care, and if you're able to get an OBGYN as your primary care, do it. And research on their reviews to see what other women say. That's so important because everybody, I've read a lot of people go through that bladder situation and it gets pushed away, pushed out. Oh, it's this, it's that. The constipation they were telling me. Push for more tests and information. That's all I can say. Just, be nice about it. And I called everybody by their names and got to know them because I did respect them and I needed them. And in the end, I thanked them for helping me. But really advocate for yourself. That's the best advice I can do. And I'm still advocating. It doesn't stop. It does not stop. You have to be your own best friend to get this taken care of. And I think that's about it for how I found it. And honestly, if you have to use the restroom like 5 or 10 minutes later, or even 15, I don't know, your body and it's not right, look into it. If there's no infection, get a scan, get an x-ray, have an OBGYN give you a pap smear and a abdominal exam, everything. And hopefully you can save yourself and share your story. And here I am sharing mine.